but now in the adventures, I use them as spies for the mind flayers and the elder brain. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. This is actually a Dungeon Master round table made up of a whole lot of YouTube creators, and I have a bunch of people who are going to help me work through some questions. So if you would like to introduce yourself.
How's it going? No Fun Allowed here, and I'm all about tabletop role-playing games, about running modules, and figuring out how to run all these fantastic systems.
Hey there, I'm Ryan with Roll for Initiative and play lots of different games. I love to run them. I really enjoy running convention games as well as my home tabletop games.
I am DM Scotty. Some people call me the craft father. I started using junk to make it in my D&D games and have terrain and that kind of thing. So here we are, the DM's craft, DM Scotty.
How do you use the Intellect Devourer in your adventures? So you're running Dungeons and Dragons campaign and the Intellect Devourer is going to feature in some way. How would you use it in your adventure in a broad sense, in terms of the story sense of it? But on top of that, I'd also kind of like to know how you deploy your Intellect Devourer in a combat and what sort of battle tactics are you using with that monster, which I think a lot of people don't necessarily fully understand and get a bit confused around. So yeah, no fun. Have you got anything for us?
Absolutely. Those little suckers, they're just brains with wheels, right? They got arms and legs. And what I like to use them for is to start body snatching people. And they could be lowly nobodies in town, or they could be higher up nobility. And eventually you can see forth this story of people starting to act a little bit differently, or maybe they're acting exactly the same, but then at the snap of a finger, something bad can happen. And I think that can really sell a story if your players are constantly in town. If you're out in the middle of the wilderness, obviously there's really not too many NPCs they can infect, unless they've got some cool, hireling, henchmen, retainers, followers, whatever. You can definitely infect one of those losers and then turn on the party later on for sure. In regards of combat, yeah, for sure. In combat, they are supposed to be intelligent. Most intelligent creatures are going to be more intelligent than player characters because int is the biggest dump stat ever, right? So it makes sense that those things would, outmaneuver people. They would move back. They would sonic blast. They would use other things. They're tiny, so they're going to squeeze through things. They're not going to just stand there, cast psychic blast, and take melee damage. That doesn't make any sense.
What about you, Ryan? How do you use Intellect Devourers in your game if you've ever used them at all?
I'm trying to think if I've used them in particular. I mean, I knew what they were and I like their mechanics. For me, I gotta say, yeah, absolutely, the idea of puppeting something else, and I like the idea of these things go out and body snatch, but then it's whatever it is that they snatch now becomes a lure for the party, right? This is a nice story hook idea, and I think it's fun to play with like myth and legend, and so it's the like, oh well, spectral little girl that is seen in the mines or something of that. Well, it turns out that it's this Intellect Devourer, and further down in the mines there's a crack and there's a passage into the Underdark, and we can really branch out from there. And so I like that, a little less maybe a less invasion of the body snatchers where en masse a town is getting taken over, but as a nice little story hook, that's something that I think is fun to do. And tactic wise, I can't see these things without thinking of just the cutest little illithid girl and her little mind intellect devourer puppy. And I like to show monsters as a societal, like as societies a lot. And so I'm telling you, if I have a chance now, I'm definitely going to do that and make the players feel horrible for killing this poor little girl and her puppy later. Because it's a player character and that's probably what they're going to resort to doing. But I also think then also, well, lots of dogs hunt in packs. And so, your stick and move type of tactics. And if you can maybe the party thinks there's one of these things that's after them, but it's 3 or 4 that are trying to hit them and stunning them. And, someone goes brain dead all of a sudden. And now that's just wait, they got to carry until they can go find a wizard with a wish spell. That can be kind of fun. That's there. These little cute little puppies that they just won't crawl inside your little brain.
I can't get the image of the little girl with the pet Intellect Devourer out of my mind now.
Yeah, she's petting it with her little face tendrils, and it's just making weird little psionic sounds. And then they see the party and they scream and run.
That's awesome. So twisted too. So twisted. What about you, Scotty? Intellect Devourers, how would you use them in your game?
I think they're a great opportunity to, in some games, the underused pillars of D&D, combat. Oh, that's king, right? But we have RP and we have exploration, right? And this really fits in those kind of pillars, because if you run into these kind of creatures, there's going to probably be some RP where you're trying to figure out what is going on. Like you mentioned, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that kind of situation. Like, what is going on? And then with the exploration, it's not just going into ruins and finding, old writings and, this and traps and stuff. Exploration is discovering what's around you. If you're dealing with these things, what is it? Right? Players are not going to go to this creature immediately. They're going to go to like charm. They're going to go to like some kind of magic is being used on this thing. Okay, maybe it's a doppelganger. They're not. This is probably going to be the last thing, if ever, they go to, until the horrible truth comes forth. When because the thing is pretty horrible, actually. What it does is pretty hideously horrible. Yeah, I think these really give you an opportunity to do that, unlike some other monsters that you can just, orcs throw at the party or whatever. It's usually going to end in bloodshed, right? If you're running into some orcs, it's usually going to be let's just face it, it's usually going to be end in bloodshed. But with this thing, you may not have any fighting at all. It may be like a totally mystery, like discovering what is going on, and maybe accidentally killing the wrong people, and then, oh wait, they're not infected. What do we do? I think you can have a lot of fun with these things. And in my game, I only ever tried to use one once. And what happened was one of the players was taken from the group by a manicore. The manicore dove down as they were on their horses. The horses freaked out and scattered, grabbed one of the player characters and flew off. As they tried to recover, the thing was already long gone. It took the player to this tower and dumped him on this dilapidated tower at the top, ripped all his clothes off, took all his stuff, left him in the weather and just, taunted him. Well, I expected him to go down, crawl down through the tower and all this kind of stuff. And I had an Intellect Devourer in there that was going to be a little fun little surprise, but he ended up thinking of a clever way to get down from the tower. So he never, ever had to face it. So the one time in my game that I actually had one of these things, he bypassed it. So I've never actually used them in my game.
One of the things I really find difficult about Intellect Devourers is honestly I have to say it's only just recently that I've kind of understood how to use them. And a lot of you've already spelled out a lot of the things which I didn't fully understand. But now in the adventures, I use them as spies for the mind flayers and the elder brain. And for them to spy, the best way to deal with that is to make sure they're hiding in another creature and not actually openly out. Because the problem is when you have, it doesn't matter whether you've got one or a herd of these things, if the players see them and they're experienced, they know exactly what it is. That's it. They understand they're in trouble. And they will just destroy them with fireball or just level everything they've got. And the chances are that they're gone. And I've always found that it tends to be the case. But the great thing about these things is because of their abilities, you can have them work their way up from something that's quite weak, like a commoner, and slowly jump into different bodies, replacing the brain. So they could easily jump from commoner to commoner in a city, and the players would never catch them, which I did recently. which has annoyed my players immensely, and they probably will never forgive me. And as a result of that, I have every intentions of making it much more of a problem later on. But I also discovered that if you can get them into a much stronger monster, they have a much better chance of surviving and actually doing what they're supposed to do. They don't work well on their own. They have to be used in conjunction with something else. Yes, you can use them with a mind flayer, but you can use them with other creatures, and they work really well, I found, when you can put them in conjunction with an ambush creature, like the bugbear. A bugbear with an intellect devourer that's replaced the brain, you players will not know what the heck is going on as the bug, because the intellect devourers have that detect sentience, so they can detect creatures coming near them, so you can't ambush them. Okay. And of course, bugbear is an ambush creature. It gets its advantage by ambushing somebody else. So then they're getting pulverized by this thing that knows where they are, can use all its features correctly. They're going to get surprised by it. Or devour intellect ability that you were talking about, No Fun, that psychic attack that they do, which, you're probably not going to take a character down with that, but it confuses them that suddenly this is happening while a bugbear is bashing them with a morning star. And they're like, what the heck is going on? And you can do that with a lot of different creatures, not just the bugbear, right? And then once someone falls to 0 hit points, then you got that body thief option, and then you can take advantage of their situation and replace the brain. And then once you start, I've done this to characters, I've done this to player characters, and it causes untold strife as they try to is what's going on with this guy? He's in our party and he's not behaving quite right. There's something slightly off. And of course, most of them already know, they'll be meta game. We know his brain's been taken over by an intellect devourer, but we can't actually do anything about it because our characters have no idea. It's so frustrating for players. So yes.
So do you just kind of let your player know that, like, on the side, and be like, by the way, this is what it is, this is your goal, and then they are now role playing not their character.
I've done it both ways. I've got a pretty good group who've been playing for a while, and so they will generally go with it and try not to metagame. They have those moments where they get frustrated and they can't help themselves, and so then I will revert back to I'm going to be secretive about it again. But yeah, I've used both methods, and it depends on how well it works. I can't be secretive about everything because I found that can cause more trouble. Even with a group of friends that you've known for a while. So I mix and match so they don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you everybody for sharing. That was great. So for those of you who are watching and using an Intellect Devourer in your game, or have used an Intellect Devourer in your Dungeons & Dragons 5e game, let us know how you use your Intellect Devourers in your story, in your adventure, what sort of purpose they have, how they operate. And then also on top of that, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who'll be interested in what kind of battle tactics, when they do get into a fight, how do you deploy them and use them in your game? So this has been our roundtable discussion. Hopefully it's been useful to you, which I think it will be. And if you want to go and check out some of these really interesting and useful and helpful individuals who are doing lots of really good content on YouTube, you can check them out at the following places. So where can they find you, No Fun?
Yeah, how's it going? No Fun Allowed. You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, and that's pretty much all I'm active on. I'm just pumping out videos all the time, and if you comment, I'm probably going to answer.
Ryan, what about you? Where can they find you?
You can find me at Roll4 Initiative, roll the number 4 Initiative, and that's on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah, come and find us and our videos and all that kind of stuff. We'd love to see you.
Scotty, where can they find you?
You guys can find me on YouTube, the DM's Craft, where I make cheap junk into terrain for my D&D game. You can find me on Facebook, the Tabletop Crafters Guild, And you can also find me at Quest Givers, where I have we have a site where we have modules that I've written and done terrain pictures for and that kind of thing. We also just released our campaign book called The North Road, which is a successful Kickstarter, and we've got it up there for sale now. Over 400 pages of content, a whole campaign. So yeah, check it out, Quest Givers. And I also have a channel too.
Thank you, all of you. It's been really, really helpful. I'm so glad you came, and I am looking forward to hopefully continuing our discussions in the future. So for all of you, thank you for tuning in, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.